Hi everybody, guess who's back with the quick shot number 83? It's Flo, hi there. And guess who's joining me today? It's none other than the pop queen herself, singer, songwriter, Estella Dawn. Estella, hi there.
Hi, you're far too kind. Thank you for having me.
So it's busy times for you. Every 4 to 5 weeks, you're releasing a new song. So where does this unbelievable drive come from?
I think I would like to say I'm addicted to the grind, but I'm not. I think it's just trying to build momentum and traction, and I have a lot of music, so it just feels like I'm able to do it. So I'm going to keep doing it for as long as I can.
So you're doing this as a full-time musician? Did you have a career before jumping into music full-time?
No, I mean I've worked in like service jobs and done like bartending and things like that, but just like fully fledged music now, which is good.
So let's jump to the beginning of you becoming a musician. Was there a certain point in your life where you just found out, hey, there's so much ideas and so much creativity, I'm going to be a pop star?
Not really. I wish that I had like a big aha moment, but I think it's just something I've always kind of done. When I was a really little kid, my mum said I would just sing and make up nonsense songs for hours on end. And as I got older, I think it was kind of like therapy, going through my teen years. I did a lot of songwriting, and then I guess enough people supported me through that journey to make me think, oh, wait, actually, I could maybe do this as a career, and I don't really want to do anything else. So I should probably give it a go.
I read on your homepage that you're not only a singer-songwriter, but also a multi-instrumentalist. So are you a self-taught musician, or did you take lessons for all the instruments you play?
So I have had like one or two voice lessons in my life, but mainly just self-taught vocals. I had classical piano lessons from the age of, I think, about 9 to 14. So I definitely was trained somewhat in piano. And then guitar, I just kind of taught myself some chords. I'm not an amazing guitarist by any stretch of the imagination, but I can, play along with myself, which is all that really matters for me personally.
So if I get this right, you taught yourself how to sing?
I mean, yeah.
So from a person who can't hold a single note under the shower or anything, uh, how do you find out, oh, that sounds pretty good? And aren't there any guys around you that guide you through the process of singing at
I
all?
think it's a really hard, like pitch is such a hard thing to teach. I feel like you either have pitch or I'm not sure, I'm not a vocal teacher, but I definitely have just always sung. My dad is also a singer, so I think he kind of would steer me in certain directions. And then as soon as I got into producing my own music, so I had recording equipment, I think by 16, being able to listen to my own voice and be like, oh, I like the way that sounds, or I like that vibrato, or I like that register, was really helpful for me to kind of discover my own voice. I think that's probably been the most helpful.
So with spanning multiple genres like pop, neo soul, rock, even the rock part, would you say there's one favorite genre you feel most comfortable in?
I think any kind of pop blend. I really like, my voice tends to go for like quite loud, like it's quite can be quite gritty, and I love a song where I can really just like let that grit come through. So I would say probably a little bit more like rocky is the most fun to sing. But yeah, any kind of pop blend I really enjoy. Or like singing blues music, which is not something that I ever really write, but I love to sing blues music.
So when coming up with ideas, do you also come up with the genre it will be played in as well? Or is it a process you just start as a, I don't know, a soul track and it ends up being a pop track?
It's definitely, it kind of just unfolds. When I first started, I would write a song on the piano or the guitar, and then I would bring it into Logic and I would flesh the song out that way. Now the way that I write is very much putting all of the elements in together. So I'll sit down with an empty project and I might have some lyrics, or I might have an idea or something like that. And then I kind of create the song all together at the same time. So I never go in with the idea of like, I want it to be more like this, but often certain sounds will fit whatever the vibe of the track is, and then it tends to go one way or the other, if that makes sense.
So taking your latest tune, Easy to Fall, as an example, can you describe the creative process? How did you come up with the idea? Who was in the team or the band you played with, and the production process?
So that one is a little different because I actually wrote that song years ago, when I was like listening to a lot of Taylor Swift. There are two songs on the album that are a lot more kind of country inspired, because I would say Easy to Fall is kind of like country pop. And so I wrote the lyrics. Yeah, I think I wrote the lyrics, and I wrote it on guitar, and then I fleshed everything out. And when I recorded my album, I went into a studio and worked with a full band for the first time. So they were just session musicians, and I gave them all the tracks and all of the parts that I'd written, and then they played some, adjusted some, but it was all kind of, yeah, that one was definitely more of a band feel for that song.
That's why I was asking, because the other tracks I heard before were going more into the sassy poppy direction, and this one pulled back for some reason, but that's the reason. So it was being there a couple of years ago for now.
I've definitely gotten a lot more sassy in the last couple of years, so my writing style is a little bit more edgy, I guess, now than it was then. But it's kind of fun to be able to have music that you made a long time ago to compare the difference in how you write songs. Yeah. So
also from your homepage, I read that you oftentimes take things from your own life as a source of inspiration. How many songs would you say are definitely coming from you as a human compared from you as an artist who just wants to put that out?
For sure. That's an interesting question. It might be, I think as I've gotten older, I've gotten more comfortable in myself. And from that, I feel like I write a lot more personally. So a lot of my music now is more from my own experiences, because I feel comfortable putting it out there. When I was younger, well, and you haven't experienced much when you're like young, you know, you have to kind of go through the things to write about the things. So it would be writing from perspectives of like a book that I'd read or a movie that I'd seen, or I would take inspiration from other places because I didn't have it to pull from internally. So I think most of my music now is at least somewhat tied to my own personal feelings or experiences.
Wouldn't that be very important for you if you create a song and then goes into the production process, that it comes out exactly the way you want it to? So are you fully in charge of how the outcome is, or do you have a team that supports and guides you through the process?
So I do have a team. There's 3 of us. Like, I do all the songwriting, production, and then I have Queenie, who does like marketing and PR, and then Shark, who does co-producing with me, and then also kind of engineers and mixes. But I definitely, like, I probably do 85% of all the production work. So I'll give him all of the parts, all the things, all the ideas, and then he'll be like, he might refine things or suggest alternatives or whatever. But it's definitely very important for me to have full control over how my music comes out sounding in the end, because it is a reflection of me as an artist. So I want to make sure that whatever idea I went in with, that it comes out the way that I want it to.
So being a full-time musician, I guess your schedule is quite stacked for now, with all the venues reopening after the whole COVID mess. What's the best thing for you to relax after a gig or a long, stressful day?
Ooh, I really love like a good bath. Like, who doesn't love a good bath? You know, the bath bomb, just like some lavender, maybe some calming jazz music. I also really love to cook. I find cooking or baking very therapeutic. I can go into the kitchen and I don't have to think about what I'm doing. You just go through the motions, and then you get to eat afterwards, which is a really big plus. But I would say probably those things, yeah. Or I love to paint too. Painting's really good for just turning your mind off. And
on canvas, or what do you paint?
I've actually been really into painting denim. So I've been painting like pockets of jeans and the backs of denim jackets and stuff. So that's kind of been a fun way to just de-stress.
Would you say that songwriting itself is a way to, yeah, to relax, or is it part of a process you just start when starting your working day, so to speak?
Mhm. It's definitely, it very much depends. I find songwriting very therapeutic in the sense that it's getting things out, but sometimes that's not overly relaxing. You know, you're having to like live through whatever experience you're trying to write about, and then you're focusing on that for hours at a time and really pulling all of the emotions out of your body. So it can be kind of draining sometimes, depending on what you're writing about.
Do you plan on certain topics to work on in your future tracks, or or do they just pop into your mind and you say, oh yeah, that's one of the things I wanted to do a song about?
It's definitely, I find when I try to go in, like I'm going to write a song about lampshades or something, then I really struggle. Whereas if I just sit down and let whatever kind of pop out, I'm like, oh, I didn't know that's what I was going to write a song about, but apparently that's how I'm feeling. So yeah, I feel like when I try and plan it, it becomes more grating of a process. I'm like trying to force it to come out.
So that's not a to-do list or a list of 20 items to strike through, but
No,
rather a process.
I do have like a lot of phone notes where like throughout my days, like lyrics will pop into my head and I'll write them down. And then when I'm sitting down to record, I might go, oh, I want to touch on those lyrics that I wrote a week ago, and then kind of flesh it out from there.
So with the whole sketchbook of ideas in the back somewhere, how many songs could you write from right now on with the ideas already in the book?
Oh, probably hundreds. I have hundreds of phone notes.
Okay.
They're all good.
That's actually a very good thing, because with all the tracks so far, and you know, people who read my blog know that I'm a fan, until now a hardcore fan, I would say, because there are a lot of tracks that really hit the sweet spot, in my opinion. So with hundreds of tracks in the making, that will be a good thing. So speaking of future plans for you, what's next for Estella Dawn?
So I have more singles, obviously, and then a full-length album will be coming out sometime near the end of the year. I'm just working on all of the post-production. So that album I recorded with the band last October, I believe it was. And so now it was a very band feel. Some of the songs will be more band driven, kind of like Easy to Fall. And then some of them will have more electronic elements, kind of like the music that I've been releasing before that. So that I'm working on at the moment, and getting kind of like a group of like a band together to do some live stuff, hopefully over the summertime. And then I also have started working on an EP for after the album, which will be, I think, a little bit more acoustic in style, because I haven't really delved that way yet.
So how much ahead do you plan with your plans?
Well, I have so many songs, so it's just fitting it all into the you can only release so many songs. So probably at least until the end of the year.
That's a plan.
Yeah.
So you just told me that you're having these band focused tracks and also the electronic ones. Do you have a preference? Is there anything better or worse working with guys or without them?
I think the one thing that's really nice about musicians playing instruments that they're good at is you get a feel that is really hard to achieve through MIDI instruments, especially if you don't play the instrument yourself. Like I can play piano, so I can play piano parts fine. But synth sounds or trumpet sounds or any sort of strings, it's so much nicer when they've got a human feel to them. And they do lean themselves towards certain styles of music more, I would say. So even the more electronic-y tracks from the band will still have more of a human feel, which I do like. I think it's so hard. I like both for different reasons. There's a song my heart for electronic music. I think just because I've been doing it for so long.
I guess this is the same hard question of what's better, live on stage or producing in the studio, because each one has its advantages and disadvantages. So, but speaking of live act performance, is there anything planned in the near future where you will be live?
Not currently yet. I'm kind of just getting myself together to do that. But I would really like to do a little more stuff around Colorado, and then maybe hopefully tour some part of the states soonish. I'm really just kind of focusing on getting these final touches done for the album, and that can be like done. And then I can do some kind of album release party and sort of move on from that. But I'm relatively close.
With the music industry changing constantly, why even bother to put out an album? Why not just release single tracks?
I mean, I'm releasing the majority of them before I release the full-length album. I think there are a couple of tracks on there that to me are not singles. They're just album tracks, which it's not that they're like, that I would say that they're terrible songs. I just don't know if they have the same, does that make sense? You know, so I can release them with a body of work, but I just don't know if they need the push of putting them out as a single.
So you decide for yourself if this really is a single release or it gets on the album as well.
Yeah, for sure. And the album in particular, it doesn't really have a theme, so to say. It's more so songs that I've written throughout the years that felt like they could have gone with a band. So I just picked songs that somewhat fit together. So it's not even really like a concept album, but yeah.
Have you a couple of raw or edgy songs you decided last minute not to release because of this or that?
Definitely. I mean, there's always, I bounce things off other people and I'm like, does this one feel like a good one, or is it, not quite there yet? Sometimes the songs they can take years. They can just sit there and then you can bring them out and be like, oh, it's time to finish this now. Pretty was a good example of that. I had that one, I think 10 years in the making. I wrote it when I was like 15. I wrote the piano parts the same. I performed it on a New Zealand's Got Talent, and then I put it away, and I brought it out every couple of years, and it went through a bunch of different genre changes. And then, was it last year? Last year I brought it out and I was like, oh, I know what to do with this now. And then it's done.
So sometimes things need to cook a bit longer until the... with you talking about the album and me being really curious about the album, last question of the interview would be, is there a name for the album yet?
No, I haven't. No, because it's hard because it doesn't have a theme. Like I've got a name for the next one because it's a concept EP, but I don't have a name for this one yet. So if you've got any ideas, please my way.
So that's why I was asking, because I thought, okay, there's no problem for a musician to put out tracks there, but in the end, to give it a name for the whole topic, if it isn't a specific topic, must be the hardest thing ever, because where do you come up with something that makes sense and stays in context with the single tracks on it?
Exactly, because any name that I've tried, it doesn't fit every single track on there. So I'm gonna have to go with something a little abstract, I think, just that has no context or anything, but we'll see.
So I'm still curious what it will be named and when it will be released. But I think at the end of this year, my curiosity will be satisfied.
Yeah.
All right, Estella, thank you very much for meeting me tonight. It was a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Guys, if you want to know more about Estella Dawn and her tracks and projects, make sure to check out the links in the description. That's it for tonight. Be safe. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.